All right, welcome to the show. We're talking with world-famous author, speaker of 10 ways to un-asshole your shit fuck self. Go stop complaining. You're a badass warrior, queen, king, magician, lover, bitch, goddess, god, Ra, sacred, brother, sister, fire. That's the title. 10 ways to un-asshole your shithole fuck self. And then all that subtitle. Bestseller. Who wants to write it? This is a solo podcast, as you probably are aware. And I don't know if you could tell if I'm high or not, but I am. You remember when, remember back in the day, when I first started smoking weed, I always felt weird in public or at school. Like the teachers know, someone knows. Not to a crazy degree that it would impede my fun, but there was always that awareness, which is really interesting because I remember being on a panel one time, and I talked about how, there needs to be decriminalization. Really, there never should have been criminalization of substances and other chemicals that alter consciousness. It's if consciousness is inhabiting the particular skin suit of the movie that's being played out of the two little periscopes popping out of the top of our meat helmets, then, we should be allowed to do that. And there's this argument of like, well, yeah, you can, most people can, what's the big deal, and that's kind of a privileged perspective to take. And not only that, but it still creates this underlying sort of feeling of like, oh, I'm doing something that is perceived as like an act that could be that could force other people to take me away somewhere, like and kidnap me. And that very notion that somewhere someone is like, oh, I can't wait to go get someone because they ate a mushroom and put him in a cage. It's like, so that's the very sort of, that's the very real and raw truth, in a certain sense. I mean, I don't know if anybody's sitting out there literally thinking that, but that's what the institution is set up. That is the code that is written into the institutional structure. So even if we feel free and safe, there is always still that sort of underlying real and raw, true nature that is there. And I suppose that's why that's why I was attracted to uncovering truths, so to speak, or looking into things that seemed to me like they didn't really crystallize in a particular way, or they weren't represented in a particular way that really struck me as being authentic and real, and made me reach the limitations of the feeling sensory input data skin suit that I inhabit, that this consciousness inhabits. So, I guess some people will call it like a bullshit detector, right? Like, I'm allergic to BS, that old expression. So I always felt that I had that sort of baked into me. And maybe that's why I was attracted to or maybe that's why I guess that explains sort of my draw to looking at sort of the larger picture and that sort of thing, and sort of like digging into areas of where people are being taken advantage of and oppressed and things like that. And I think that it also stems from a lot of things in the way that I grew up. And I think it's important to look at this stuff when you're journeying and venturing into altered realms, to really access the multi-dimensional codex of time and space and reality, and see if you can like turn some knobs or flick some buttons in there, or learn how to write some code, and then go back in time and program healing and things like that. And this is all like a very metaphorical sort of process, but then implementing that in the three-dimensional physical space is what's important, which I'm going to be talking about on this Solocast, is the traps along the way, the traps that I've fallen into, and the journey to recognize that and then escape those and learn from them and put action to them, which I'll be talking about. And so back to the sort of the way in which I was like shaped and molded. There was also an event that happened in my life when I was very young that I talked about on this podcast one time before, and I felt like I was taken advantage of, and that my space was invaded, and that it wasn't that it was necessarily such a big deal, but it was more about it just being a matter of appropriate respect for somebody else's autonomy and sovereignty as an individual, and mine was violated, and I never looked at it as being violated, and I never really considered the importance or the weight of that until very recently. I've been definitely battling with a nicotine addiction. And again, there's this failure to admit that it's an addiction. But fortunately, I have amazing people in my life who remind me and show me in a loving way, and hold mirrors to me so that I, see I am able to, the way in which they communicate to me, I'm able to understand, because they're being open to like my processing and my language and my process. So holding me in a very safe and faithful place, and safe space, and I feel maybe I've never really quite allowed myself to fully open up into that space, even though I thought maybe I was. Because it's fucking challenging. It's really, really fucking challenging. And I got to say, I've been re-watching The Sopranos. I don't actually think I ever fully watched The Sopranos, actually. When The Sopranos aired, I was still in high school. I was just starting high school. And I didn't have HBO, so I didn't get into it. And I think it was just like I watched episodes here and there. And I never really followed the story arc of the show. It's a phenomenal show. Shout out to my friend Mookie Thompson, who was on the podcast for that one, because he I asked him what he was like, what he was watching, and he's like, go back and watch The Sopranos. It's the best show that was like ever made. And it really, really, really is. My God, James Gandolfini, really embodies that role, and you forget you're watching a show. The guy is phenomenal. The writing is phenomenal. But it was the reason why I bring it up is because I randomly started it's interesting when these things come into your life in the particular moment in time where you feel maybe that the universe or whatever higher self consciousness, your that you sort of bring these things into being when you need them, when you're ready for them. Because I think so many of us really want to skip ahead and get to the thing, even myself, because I am so clever that I can convince myself that is not what is my motivating aim, and bury it beneath labyrinths and mazes and riddles and enigmas and mysteries and puzzles and chessboards and 17-dimensional chess. But every so often, you take 11 grams on 11/11/2020 and, you find out some shit. Sometimes there's portals that are waiting to be opened, like little, like a grand game of like a grand scavenger hunt through time, space in this reality, like the sort of multidimensional time, space scavenger hunt, theatrical, magical show. And it's possible that it's entirely, but how do you know that you're not here to resolve issues from another life? What if you had another life, but it was just a dream? Would you know it was a dream? But how did you know that it was a dream? So then, you see, we all have prickles and goo and prickles. And we all have balls and dicks that need pouches. So go to Sheath Underwear. This is Alan Watts saying, use code mikeadelic for 20% off. I only did that because I thought it might be semi-amusing, and maybe if it wasn't amusing for you, it was amusing for me. So what I'm talking about here is the pitfalls along the path to awakening, right? I mean, I could admit that is something that I desire in a way, and it's the labeling of that, the traps along the way that are even traps within traps, where it's like, yeah, like awakening is it's just this, this you're just in the moment, and you're just present, and you are what is, and you just allow things to happen, and you're just flowing, and you're not thinking about the future, and you're not thinking about, and it's like even putting all that onto it and coming out of the mouth of some robed figure in the front of a room, or some non-robed figure in the front of a room, and it's like, yes, tell me please how to get there. Oh yes, no, I understand that. Oh, I understand that, and I can do that. I'm doing it right now. Yes, I am the awakened one, right? So it's like this huge spectrum of interpretation, and every single individual colors this interpretation through the lens of their own, infinitesimal, like unfathomable human experience. Every little second of literally every second of every moment of this individual, of you, of me, we experience this thing that we call our lives, informs how we interpret the teachings and the work and the experiences that we have along the way towards this, whatever our aims are, whatever is the thing that we are seeking. Because that is what we're all seeking. We're all journeying, discovering. No matter if you're doing deep inner work, or if You are just projecting, and everything is exterior and outside of yourself. No matter what, there's this draw, there's this pull. No matter what, there's this draw, there's this pull. So, for myself, I've found the work to be tremendously challenging, just to contain it all, to hold it all. And I've definitely crafted what I think to be clever illusions to protect me from the full exposure of going out into the world, and that is because of how I felt like I was taken advantage of and hurt, and like in a way that I didn't know of at the time, I couldn't make sense of at the time. It didn't have the capabilities to really like understand and like grok what was happening, or what I thought about it, or how it impacted me, and then that combined with this sort of outside system that said, this is the way the world is, this is the way, this is how things are, and this is what you got to do. And I always felt like, what the fuck? I'm new to this party. Like, what are we doing here? This is what we're doing? I think we could do something better. And embodied this sort of like brat punk kind of role, right? Like, I was never really a hippie. I was more of a punk, and like a bratty punk. And I wasn't spoiled, I was just very middle class, average, but wanted to be spoiled because I had friends that I saw that were spoiled, and I was like, I want that, and demanded that. And the container, the house that I grew up in, I mean, I love my family tremendously, but at the time, it felt very chaotic and unstable. And I didn't really have anybody to look to for a healthy version of masculinity and femininity and human being-inity. And it's nobody's fault, it's just the way in which this production that I'm a part of has unfolded in order to provide the opportunities to search for ways to upgrade, advance, integrate, to accept, to settle into, sink into, all of these things, because I don't want to just get caught up on like a healing effect of like getting over and moving through, but the journey at sea that we're all at, and our ships are sailing all in this vast big ocean looking for land, and these siren songs, these seductive, alluring siren songs keep calling, and I'm going over, and the same thing keeps happening, and a cycle just keeps going. But if I avoid those siren songs, then I can get to land. And then when I get to land, a new cycle emerges. And it's not necessarily that it's better, but that it's different, because there's obviously, it's like I'm explaining this to a 3-year-old, that when you have the same experience over and over again, and it's not a pleasant one, it's interesting to see, okay, how can I take that same sort of time frame and implement it into a time frame that provides a pleasant or a more pleasant experience, or an experience with a little less suffering. So I say all this to just give a context for the tremendous amount of suffering that I experienced growing up. I was constantly consumed with rage. And when I wasn't constantly consumed with rage, I was trying to make people laugh. I was, just interested in being kind of cool guy, party guy. And that was fun. It was really, really fun. And I grew up in a very, I only grew up from, it was 35 minutes away from where The Sopranos takes place. And I know people like that. And I come from a big Italian family, and this is it's a very, very interesting thing to be healing and integrating and gaining insights from a mushroom journey, and then binge watching The Sopranos. For me personally, as a Mike Mr. Mikeadelic, hey, I'm a psychedelic guy over here. Throw a little mushroom in the gravy. Yeah, put a little golden teacher in there. When we sprinkle it on, you like? That's a nice. That's more like the Pepper Boys from Saturday Night Live, Italian guy. Yeah, so you like it, the pepper. You like it, the pepper? Say when. Say when. Yes. If you haven't seen that sketch, it's amazing. Just back in the day when SNL was actually absurd and silly and taking risks and just, not so boring and political. Dana Carvey and Adam Sandler, the Pepper Boys. It's amazing. And then there's also like the Soprano Italian, like, where this is where I grew up. These are people that I know, like very similar. I could see a lot of people in my life that I really can draw a lot of parallels to in this in the story of The Sopranos. And so that growing up in that way, where there's a view of weakness by anybody that's not being outwardly aggressive and hostile and mean and vulgar and derogatory and actually picking fights, purposefully getting into fights, creating physical violence, where there's no necessary justification for physical violence to ensue. And this was a large part of my upbringing. This was a large part of the way that I grew up. I grew up in a very abusive and really just disrespectful way, although I didn't know it at the time. The way that I had looked at things was that the more braggadocious, the more cocky, arrogant, the louder you are, the tougher you are, the better you are. The more people that think that you can intimidate, or that you can take stuff from for your own personal, that you can take stuff from for your own personal gain. Like, this was not a frowned upon, and it was an encouraged sort of, at least not explicitly encouraged, but sort of group energetically reinforced. That was the way, as they say in The Mandalorian. This is the way. And that was the sort of very tribal warrior, like, but not in a healthy warrior, like very unhealthy group of baby warriors who have not gone through the proper initiations in order to hold the warrior energy in a healthy way. And so, just look at, people like Trump, and look at, the rest of the assholes that we hate that are, ruining things. And that's no fault of their own, really, but in this general cultural connection to something beyond us, something more sacred, something that is here to challenge us, to give us something to fight through in order to get to the other side, in order to hold and carry as much of this experience as necessary, so that we can apply the appropriate finesse and grace and to any given situation, and mold and adapt to it. And that comes with the really shaping the totality of a human being. And we all grew up in a very, and still are in, an aggressive culture that speaks to young men and young everybody's in a way that is very one-dimensional. And, that just doesn't work for multidimensional beings. So I've created a lot of suffering for myself as a way to punish myself for the punishment that I inflicted on others. The way that I spoke, I could cut people down. Like, just, we used to call it, send them to the lightning chair for a face melt. Verbal abuse. And my friends and I, that's the way in which we communicated with each other. And it was fucking fun. It was so fun to push the limits of how far we can go to make it funny, truthful, and like a little painful, and still remain friends after. And that's like a very Sopranos kind of thing, right? Like, hey, I'm just breaking balls over here. Hey, this guy's breaking my fucking meatballs, yeah. But that is how that was the energy of where I hail from, the land in which I hail from. And we see that with, like, I mean, if you watch The Witcher or Game of Thrones or I don't know, there's all these, like, Lord of the Rings. There's all the tribes have like a particular kind of energy, right? And we're sort of I think we've had this in this world, and we're kind of losing that now. There's this very big push to centralize and homogenize everything in this one sort of particular, and I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't. But I've been really, I used to express myself very outwardly, and that was the only way that I knew how to get what I wanted, was the outward push. I would read books like Born to Run and be like, man, this is so inspiring, and buy the Vibram toe shoes, and I was out in running 9 miles around the tip of Manhattan like every 3 days or something like that. Intense, getting into it. I love the show Bob's Burgers, and there's the kid is like, he's a teenager going through changes, so they do this little montage flash cut of like 20 different scenes, and he's just like, that's it, this is me now, and he's like wearing different outfits, like he's like a Rasta, and then he's like a emo, and he's like, this is me now, this is who I am now. And it's so interesting because we all go through this. Like, there is this search, this desire, this seeking for identity, for meaning, for purpose, for some kind of validation as well, that we're contributing, that we are here for something, that we are making something, that we are being nourished and fulfilled and satisfied. And, for the most part, I am now, and there's still little areas that need big work. So maybe big areas with consistent work. And that, there's all these stones that I keep turning over in this process, but so many of us out there are suffering, and that suffering has just become normalized to where we just accept that this is the way it is. My parents used to say that to me as a kid all the time. It is the way it is. If you don't like it, too bad. We're the parents. That's what we say because we say so. Because we're your parents. That's it. This is the way it is. That's it. And it's a it's a very understandable perspective. I remember feeling that perspective, and I think where I have failed, the traps that I've fallen into, has been to project more of my internal, the sort of unintegrated shadow aspects into the outer world, and I'll explain what that means. What that means is, I've been getting, that I've been like very satisfied with my cleverness around digging into a lot of like unseen or untalked about topics. And there's a certain level of satisfaction that comes with like being the one that sees it all and connects all the dots. And it's very alluring. And then there's also that part of like, well, of course I don't really, you know, what does this all mean? You know, what does it all mean really once you're, you know, and how far do you want to go in this quest to unearth the artifacts of reality? Because they're like instant artifacts. Everything's moving and going and passing, just as this is passing right now. It's like instant artifacts. Act now for instant artifacts. Get it sent to your house and it immediately becomes an artifact. And there's a tendency to just give up on the work. Because it's like, man, it's just so much easier to just sit here, you know, big brain boy at the edge of the multiverse smoking a pipe and critiquing and judging and mocking. And, you know, there's a certain sense of moral superiority. Like, I know what's going on. You guys don't. And, you know, this whole life is just a game. And, you know, who cares? And, you know, what are we doing over here? And it's like, dude, I'm talking to myself now. Dude, stop being such a little fucking spoiled brat baby pretending to be some big bad god sitting at the edge of the fucking time-space continuum and you know, doing space crack. Judging everybody, sitting on his Mount Olympus throne that isn't Mount Olympus throne, but just a pile of your own feces. Because you're full of shit. That's what I'm saying to myself. And of course, I'm not being hard on myself here. There's a lot of great things that I'm doing, and I want to celebrate those great things, and a lot of like awesome stuff that I'm creating. It's like I'm really psyched about that. So I'm not doing what I would do in the past, whereas that I would act out from that trauma response to shame myself because I felt like I wasn't worthy. I don't deserve to get what I want and be happy because I didn't know how to. The only energy that I knew how to use in order to get those things was energy that took advantage of other people, lied to other people, cheated on other people, was just fake to other people, deceptive, manipulative, all that kind of stuff. And not knowing that that's what I was doing. Just knowing that was that's the only road. The car that I'm driving in only had lights to see that there was a 1-lane highway. And I do feel as of late that I'm starting to observe that the highway is much, much bigger than 1 lane. Although I have had that realization in the past, it was more that I started to take that energy and just put it away and just do nothing with it. And the taking that energy and doing nothing with it caused me to be depressed because I wasn't putting that energy anywhere. And so that energy had no place to go but inward for self-soothing, for some kind of nurturing that I was so badly craving, some kind of nurturing and leadership that I was craving. And so, feeling like I couldn't let that part of me, I couldn't access that energy because I didn't know how to wield it. I was a dark side wielder for many years. And how many dark side people, if you're a Star Wars fan, how many dark side users get converted to the light? Not many. I mean, Darth Vader, as the Emperor was killing his son, and I tell this metaphorically speaking because I believe in the great mythos, the Campbellian mythos of Star Wars. It speaks to me, and it wasn't until the last moment of like near death that he turned Darth Vader, right? So the dark side always converts more because it's more seductive, it's more alluring. It's that siren song, that seductive, sexy siren song. So for a large part of my life, I really only knew how to play one way. Then I learned how to play another way. Then a little bit more came into frame, and a little bit more came into frame, and there's always more coming into frame. And recently, I felt like maybe I had let that evolution take a long nap. And, partially because of the pandemic, right? Partially because of what happened. When things first went off, I was in a really, really good place, and I was having a lot of fun doing live events and collaborating with other people in the psychedelic space and other spaces here in Denver and all over. Shout out to San Francisco Psychedelic Society, Seth and Danielle and everyone over there who's awesome and who are really, really, really cool, doing really big things, really cool things. I don't know if they're big or they're little or they're medium-sized or if they're like micro-sized, but maybe they're having a micro-dosing event. So I guess they are doing micro things. So go check that out. Links there for you. But yeah, I there's a need for deep community to get raw and vulnerable and real and really open up about the things that we're feeling, the sensations that we're having. And so many times I get lost in the seductive allure of the mind, the figuring it out, the puzzle pieces. Look at how it all works. Look at the grand machine. Ooh, isn't it spectacular? Magnificent. Ha 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 ha. Look at my creation. Or look at the creation, to marvel at it. Like I just got the new iPad. I'm psyched about it. But there's this like uber nerd part of me that just likes to geek out on tech stuff. And oh man, like the pixels and the ratio and the liquid retina and the, this and that. And it's like, I think that we all do that as human beings. We really, whatever draws our interest and we happen to really love it and appreciate it. And, but when it comes to like living in the world, it really doesn't help to think that you're sort of above it all or somehow not fazed by it. So when the pandemic happened, I started off really well. I mean, leading up to the pandemic, I had a lot of positive energy and I was really committed to deep personal work and manifesting what I wanted to with the show and live events and just collaborating and having a good time. And then when the pandemic happened, it was like, okay, what's going on? This is weird. Why is this happening now? And it was really, really difficult to know how to like properly assess the situation. And like my first reaction was because I was surrounded by a lot of people that were just responding in a way of like, oh wow, like there's this virus and like we need to like lock down and like stay home and like we gotta like keep each other safe. Like this is really scary. And people went off and they watched Tiger King and they put went to the grocery store and came home, and then all of a sudden everyone started wearing masks, and then the cases, and all this stuff, and it's just like it's this like perfect opportunity to just like completely get lost in like the sea of the infinite scrolling of the endless abyss of the collective mind, and throwing mine in there, and letting it take me away, and take me away from myself, from the work that I'm doing at the inner level of my being, and then embodying that. And a lot of the times in the past, I would come on the podcast with a solo cast like this, and I would talk about these revelations, these insights into my work, my depression, my healing, my struggles, the this, my that, blah, 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 blah. And there's this sort of self-flagellatory like performance in a way, which is not. I mean, I'm turning on the microphone and just rambling through what the hell's going on for me. And what happened was the amount of people that connected with me and said, you really spoke to me, and like, I'm going through the same thing. Like, thank you for putting that out there. It really made me feel really good. And I felt like I was actually contributing and helping people. And then I was like, okay, but then I sort of got stuck in this thing of like, well, I'm just going to like have the insights and like figure it out. And then I'm just going to like do it a little bit and then talk about it. And then like that goes away. And then it happens again. And here I am again, like new shit has come to light, man. New shit has come to light, man. Got a beverage here. But, yeah, like I could have these big psychedelic experiences and gain all this insight and wisdom and talk about it and get validation from others, and, like go to integration groups and meetings and have really in-depth things. And, all the while there's this sort of like, there's this true authentic feeling and creation that happens, but there's still this like 10% of like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm so good, like I'm doing good, like I'm knowing things, I'm better than like it's not like a conscious I'm better than others, but it's this inability to really sit with the whole of the human experience that we all are. It's a very difficult task. Charles Eisenstein has been an inspiration to me in that sense of communicating potentially really polarizing. I mean, definitely, I guess some people would say, I wouldn't say that, but, challenging and confronting topics with such grace and poise and elegance and seemingly very authentic to me. And it's an incredibly difficult task for myself to become friends with the parts of me that are, still holding on to that like aggressive and judgmental and pessimistic and cynical sort of things, not to shun those away, not to make them go away, but to really, invite them in for tea and sit them down and really take it in and really experience it and really feel it. And, a lot of people were saying a lot of that stuff during the pandemic. This is a great opportunity to reflect and go inward and that stuff. And I paid like lip service to it. And I'm like, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a good time to do that. Yeah, for sure. And like sort of semi did some myself, but still really hooked on like the story of it all. What's going on? What are they not telling us? What are the lies, the deceptions? Where are the places where they are taking advantage of us? Where are they invading our right? Like that's so it always goes back to this like core wound of being taken advantage of and then being the perpetrator myself, taking advantage of other people, and then that effect of punishing myself for that, and being this sort of like emo vigilante that needs to sniff it out in the in the most like like absurd way. Like, do you think it would, by doing like a podcast that like the energetic, the collective energy of the magic of the predatory class is just going to like we're gonna like fight them and win or something? I think this was part of my delusion. Even saying this now, even what I'm saying is that even when I thought that it wasn't, that it was, if that makes sense. It's like going to the bottom of the ocean and continuously and being like, man, I have been to the bottom of the ocean. Let me tell you, I fucking know this, I know that, I know all this shit. I know these sharks, I know the octopi, I know the bioluminescent, the this, I know all these things. And then one day you see that there's a cave that just goes down infinitely deeper. And you're like, oh shit. All right, well, I'll pretend I didn't see that, and I'm not going to tell anyone about that. Oh shit, they found out. I found it out. Okay, I can't hide it anymore. Well, yeah. I've been down there, and let me tell you. I was like, yeah, I know about the cave, but it's like, did you really dive in there? Did you really go on that journey? And then there's the cleverness of like, well, statistically speaking, most of these caves, there's really nothing down there. It just goes straight down, and the oxygen pressure, and we don't really have the suits and the technology right now to really get down there, and and then so it's like, okay, well, how can we like build the thing then that's gonna like protect us for when we're going down there, right? Like this great little story that Wim Hof shared, I remember, about the wizards creating the universe, and they were like talking about where they're going to put the soul of humankind, and they're like, well, we can hide it, at the bottom of the ocean, one of them says. And they're like, no, he'll invent something, and he'll like go all the way down there, and he'll find it, and he'll come back and put it in a museum and sell it for big money, and people come and look at it and take pictures of it and take selfies in front of it with peace signs, and no, we can't put it there. And they're like, all right, well, where can we put this soul? Like, where can we put it? Like, all right, one of them says, oh, how about we put it on the top of this mountain? They're like, no. They're like, it's the tallest mountain on Earth. We can put it there. And no, they're going to climb. They're going to make special suits and oxygen masks, and they're going to have special camping things. They're going to hang off the sides of the mountains and do all these crazy things. That they're going to get it. They're going to find it, and they're going to plant a flag on top, and they're going to take pictures, and people are going to make documentaries and tell stories, and their pictures are going to be everywhere. No, we can't put it there. And it's like, what about the farthest reaches of space? It's like, no, they're going to invent a ship. They're going to fly there. They're going to go get it. They're going to take over that place wherever they found it and think that it's theirs. And, and then one of them's like, well, what if we put it inside of man himself? He'll never look there. And they're all like, huh, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. I love that story so much. And part of my process is not getting lost in the story, not getting lost in the mythology, Jason Silva who like proudly proclaims, he's like, I'm a wonder junkie. It's like reality is bending time and space. And Carl Sagan said the cosmos are alive with all the poetry of motion and nature. And my mind is just blowing into 1,000 pieces that are blowing each other with awe and wonder. And just so much epiphanies for the madness of the creative and the talent of the wise that Camus once said, and then Einstein, and wow, it's just so, and then he just devolves into the Tim and Eric meme of space where his head's exploding, and it's just like, it's like he calls himself a wonder junkie. Self-admittedly, I mean, maybe that's courageous in a way. I don't know. I certainly do think that he's talented, and I like what he. Yeah, I mean, I think he's good. It just doesn't 100% resonate with me. But I noticed that within myself is this ability to latch onto something and be like, oh wow, like just be marveled and amazed by it, and proclaim the insight, and like, aha, look what I discovered, and people be like, oh, that's very nice, very nice, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm working on it too, and then it's like I didn't do the homework. Like I went to class, I went to show and tell, and then I was assigned another project, and I didn't do it until the last minute before it was due or something like that, right? So the point of this entire Solocast is really just to talk about like my personal experience through the last like few months and sort of recent things that I've been working through. And I mentioned very early on that the nicotine addiction was a big thing for me, and this aspect that was revealed to me in my journey, my 11/11 journey, was. As Michelangelo would call that, the ungoogleable Michelangelo would call that a synchronicity. So part of the unfolding of that provided a lot of greater, like I went down into the cave, and I don't know, I've done a lot of big journeys, and I think that's a part of the process too, is the relying on the journey, the size of the journey, to really, like, Alan Watts said it best when he said, you have to really put yourself through the mill. So then, you want to grow from an experience, you have to really put yourself through the ringer to feel like you deserve to awake. Otherwise, you're just teasing yourself. But maybe you want to tease yourself. How would you know you weren't teasing yourself if you didn't know what teasing was? So you see. No, he takes a pause. He goes, so you see then. So then, how do we know that we're not fooling ourselves into awakening? That we're not playing little games on ourselves, because that's the great drama of the experience. But he does talk about this, and it really resonates with me, really connects with me, is this, when we talk about waking up, whatever that is, I feel like by even saying it, you can't make it something. It can't, I think that, and I'm a little reluctant to like get into that stuff, like as material, because I do believe that I need to feel it. It has to be felt, because I don't trust the logical magician of my mind to clever it up and wrap it in and make it into an iPad for me and be like, wow, that's amazing. Whoa. Look at that insight. Damn, that is some really fine insight. That's some sexy ass insight. I'll take another insight, please. Yeah. I'm just imagining like Sam Elliott sitting at a strip club with just profundity and insight in front of him, like sliding down poles. Mighty fine. So there's this constant like awareness that there are traps along the way that I've had for, like I've once I reached this sort of point where a new room in the house was opened, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know that this room was here. Wow, this is a huge room. As soon as that point happened, I was like, oh cool, okay, well I'm exploring this for a little bit, and now there's this even larger area that really puts a lot of things into a very clear picture. And, perhaps that is the mechanism for the kind of transformation that some of us do require. Now, having that awareness, though, I think that there's more that can be done in order to really nurture and facilitate the flow of that process, so that it's, very similar to a like safe injection facility, or like a Zendo approach, the Zendo model, like a very compassionate and caring and loving invitation into other levels of opening up and other levels of awareness. And, it is interesting. It is interesting to dive into the labyrinth of the mind and see, oh, look at all the little clever tricks I've played, and look at all the little things that I've done, and oh, I tried to get this, and but it, again, it's like using this particular kind of energy and neglecting the other kind. Well, not necessarily neglecting, but just really getting like really proud of the level of cleverness in order to protect myself from several things, and the nicotine addiction is, I've been hooked on the Juul ever since the Juul came out, because I was a smoker, and so I quit. And I was like doing, it's all convincing myself that it's like, oh yeah, it's not that bad, it's fine. Like I'm doing like natural, organic, roll your own. I'm not really smoking that much. But it's this like, then this snowball effect starts to happen where it's like, I think, this is maybe the point of the whole podcast, is that I think that just when I think that I've got a handle on something, and that I'm in control of a situation or an outcome, that is when I start to trip and fall down the path that I don't want to be going down, and then relying on certain kinds of energies that I don't want to be communicating and radiating and putting out there. And so, when it comes to talking about the goings on of the world, and the fascinating and interesting, and the wild and the wacky, and the conspiracies and the stories, and it's like, yes, I do want to be aware of what is happening on some level in reality. At the same time, I don't want to be consumed by it. I don't want to get lost in it. I don't want to think that understanding something means that there's, at some level of something, means that there's some kind of reward system that gets enabled in me, so that I can just kind of like take it easy because I've quote unquote accomplished something. I've figured something out. I've ascended to some kind of, self projected moral high ground, or superior by way of intelligence or something like that. And it's like, it's such a trap. And, I think that it really takes having good people around you to really shine a light or hold a mirror or, hold a space to really allow what is deeper in you to emerge, for people to really kind of understand and see you. And I think that is one of the most important things for us human beings in this life, because we cannot do it alone. And I have continuously fell into the trap of thinking that I can become who I want, that I can both be and become what I want by simply sort of resting in certain kinds of areas. And yeah, so the real sort of like the door to the big room that opened up with the lights that are creating a new awareness now is really how sneaky and clever and tricky and how seductive and alluring these traps can be, and my propensity to think that I can recognize them and handle them and accept them and not bypass them. And I have definitely engaged in a lot of bypassing and materialism, spiritual materialism. And maybe that's why that's one of my favorite books, and I should probably read it again, by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. But then again, there's my mind taking over saying, I need to be reminded again by Chogyam Trungpa about spiritual materialism and spiritual bypassing and the traps and all that stuff. And then I remember when Ramin Nazar was on my show, I think I labeled the show, "It's Good Until It's Not." It's like, I would listen to Chogyam Trungpa's Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, and I have this quality of really taking it on very intensely for a short period of time, and then being like, I'm bored with that character. This is like, again, that like spoiled baby god brat sitting at the edge of the multiverse playing with his toys and being like, I want a new one. So that is I don't know how many people can relate to that, but that is what it's been like for me in my experience. And it doesn't mean that I've necessarily it's very interesting, because it's not like that I have been coming from an inauthentic place. It's that the place that I was coming from, I thought was the most authentic place, only to realize now that there's depths beyond that as well. And maybe there's also this attitude of like, oh man, there's more work to do. Fuck, dude. Like, what the fuck? Like, being a child and then growing up and taking on that role as like the, there's like the punk, like teen, like the fuck the system, fuck authority, like rebel spirit kind of thing. But not that real, like embodied, wise gardener warrior type, king, warrior, magician, lover, the whole of it. And I don't want to just blame society and say, well, we don't have initiation rites and we're not connected, we have all these laws that lock people in. It's like, yeah, that is a problem. And I believed at one point that I could really just rant and rave about this stuff, and people would just be like, yeah, that's fucked up, like, let's do something. This was I suppose that we all entertain certain kinds of illusions and delusions to keep us feeling like on stable ground and comfortable places and familiar spaces, and feeling like that we have a mission to accomplish some kind of a thing, whatever that thing may be, whether it's like be more recognized as a painter, or sell more, or make more money as a musician, or make a career as a podcaster, or whatever it is. And this is a very interesting part of this work for me, because there is this need to there is this sort of like wanting that I've also noticed in the last, during this like quarantine lockdown time. And really like sitting with that and seeing how to integrate that. And, one of the biggest conclusions that I've also came to is I don't ask for help. And again, it's part of that fucking, chosen one wizard baby, sitting in a lotus flower at the center of the cosmos, just going, ha 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 ha, yeah, I get it. Right, so like, and the Sopranos and like that kind of energy, and like the way the nature of the energy of which I grew up, and for a large part, all the way up till I was like really like 20, 27, 28, like I didn't really start sort of trying to live a more like conscious and present and intentional life until that point. And it was before then it was just all it was just a mess. Not to, I mean, it still is, but it's worlds better than that also necessary experience. Putting yourself through the mill. You need to suffer if you want to wake up. And Alan Watts is saying that not that we all need to do that, or that's all the way for all, but that some of us put that game upon ourselves in order to force ourselves to see, force ourselves to be, or to get to the point where we see that is the mechanism that we're doing. And how can we use that tool in a different way? So, I think that a lot of this journey has been also represented in this show. Like a lot of my personal journey has been represented in the show. If you go back and you listen, I'm sure that you could tell. I mean, you could probably tell differences between episodes, right? I mean, I'm very different on this episode than I was on the last one. I'm very different on the last one than I was on a few ones before that. So, I don't know. I guess I've never really totally resonated with like this sort of like Jordan Peterson, Aubrey Marcus, Gary Vaynerchuk. Like I don't know why I'm naming these guys, but like more like this like conquer the dragon, like slay like the warrior, like it's like, yeah, that's like a cool story, but like, what am I waking up every day like I'm gonna fucking like, oh, like have a good day at work, honey, like where's my sword? I'm going to slay some dragons at the office, bitch. Like, don't talk to me like that. I'm a fucking warrior, don't you understand? I'm slaying dragons out here. What the fuck are you doing? I don't know. I've never really like it's just it's cool, it's interesting, like it makes sense, but it's also just not something that I feel that I could particularly take into my reality. So, how do I, as who I am, allow myself to say, I can't, I need help. Like I need help. And I don't know what to do. And, yeah, I need support. I recently got an email from someone who listens to the show, and I'm not going to say their name, keep them anon, Q. Q, Q, Q. And on it. Trust the plan. It's all happening. This is a secret encoded message. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. It's all happening. Shut it. Okay. 666 is the number of Trump. That commercial break was brought to you by Illuminati Satan Spawn Scum. Protect yourself from the Illuminati Satan Spawn Scum by going to alexjones.com and buying male vitality formula. Everyone, the world is going to be a safer place. Man, that guy's a fun character. Anyway, and a scam artist. But that's fun, you know? It's fun to observe that. So I got an email from someone, and they were just really, I believe they sent an email to me a year before, and, you know, it was a very long email, and not to say don't send long emails, but I would love long emails. I love long voice messages, long videos, whatever you guys want to send. I'm totally open to that. But I think that, you know, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it really reminded me of me when I was 28, 27, 28. And I was so desperately wanting to, like, connect with people that I admired and, you know, like, was like, oh, man, like, wow, like, just so blown away by the people that I was hearing on podcasts in, like, 2010 or 2011, 12, 13, like, around that time, and being like, whoa, this is amazing, and these people are so cool, and, like, they really speak to me, and they, you know, and I would get, you know, like, I would just get all, like, worked up and about, like, man, like, I'm really meeting, like, a like-minded person, and, like, I'm not so alone anymore. But it comes out, it just, like, all comes out. It's a lot, and it's like, you know, it's hard to be, like, present with that energy, because you could tell now that I'm on the receiving end of it. I could tell the energy of that, and it's like, oh man, like, yeah, this is like, I just want to like pick your brain, and, like, let's just, like, hang out, and, like, let's, like, do something together, like, you know, this or that, or just, you know, on and on about, like, you know, the various ways that we're connected or similar, or that we agree, or that it's just amazing, and the love and all that stuff. And it's like, it's great. You want to hear that. Like, that's awesome. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to respond to that person because I don't know. I don't get, like, a ton of emails, but I guess I get a ton of emails. I get a decent amount of emails for me. And so you know, because I'm a very low tolerance email kind of person. But when someone from the show emails, I am very responsive. It's just hard to get into it with someone who sends, you know, like, a page or 2 pages of stuff. And again, it's, like, really tricky because I don't want to discourage that, but because I want you to, like, fully express what you want to express. But and I know, like, I was there, you know, and, like, I wish someone would have said to me, like, you know, hey, if you're wanting to, like, reach out and connect with these people, you know, that because you don't really know what it feels like to be on the other side until you're on that side. And so when you're on the other side, and you're like, it's just so exciting to have discovered something that really resonates and connects with you and in another person. And, you know, so yeah, there is this, like, outpouring of love, but maybe it's, like, love that's a little you know, being going through the pipeline of, like, some, like, wanting, desire, outcome, you know. And it's like, no fault, you know, like, we don't know, you know, it's hard. But I'm just putting it out there that I've learned over the years, and I'm still learning to this day, that to really respect the natural kind of flow or opening of connection. And so I don't really know what I'm saying. I guess I'm just saying that, like, I want to connect with everybody that wants to connect with me, and I want to, like, create community and everything. And so I think the best way to get, well, I think a good way, I wouldn't say the best way, I'd just say a good way that works for me is to just drop me like a note about like some things that you want to talk about that involve like a larger detail. So like maybe you write the email and you don't send it, and then just put that in like a notes folder or something, and just be like, hey man, like, I would love to chat with you. And like, whatever, like, I would love to chat with you, like, big fan of the show, like, and like a couple, just like keep it kind of brief, this way that I can see it and I could pay attention to it and I could file it under, get back to this person. Cause like, I'm just, when I get hit with like the whole thing, I just like tune out immediately. And, I understand that because I once did that as well. I remember like I wrote like a long ass letter to Chris Ryan like one time, like back in like 2013. I was just like, dude, like your show, and it's like awesome, and like, oh my god, man, like so cool, and like that happened to me, and like oh man, like that same thing happened to me, and I want to do that, and that was cool, and and it's just like, all right, okay, cool, just take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy. Make a little linguine bolognese. Hey, yo, mamma. There's a culture. I just love culture. I love diversity. I love culture. It's watching The Sopranos is like reinvigorated my appreciation for that particular. It's really watching The Sopranos has really reinvigorated my passion for people that murder other people. No, for the kind of culture, the sort of like the loyalty, the family, the extended family, the big Italian, the dinners, the way of talking, the tonality, the worry, the anxiety, the energy, the attitudes, the beliefs. It's like, there's many out there, and we are moving towards a world where everything is becoming more similar and different. I'm really feeling a change within myself that I haven't felt before. I think maybe before I might have felt this sort of like, we really do need to live as like tribal hunter-gatherers with like a limited amount of technology. But the way that things are going in the world right now, the stories that people are believing, the traumas that we're acting out, the stories that we're acting out, the games that we're playing, the traps that we're setting, and we're all doing them. And I just told my, I don't know, maybe half boring part of some of those pitfalls and some of those traps and some of those struggle traps. This podcast is brought to you by Struggle Traps. Straps that you struggle and struggle. Struggle traps. Struggle straps. Everybody has a trouble strap. Struggle strap. Struggle strap, fraggle rack, rock. So, yeah, we're all going through shit, and that's such a stupid way to end the podcast. Anyway, so everything is everything, and everything is nothing, and everybody feels something, and everybody thinks something. So, that's my big insight. See you later. No, I hope, I hope that this was able to be something, and I hope that I'm able to accept feedback from this, and not let it fill me up so much that I allow that to carry me, but that I actually just experience it and let it pass through, and am staying steady, determined, and focused on the next. And this has been this balancing act of not wanting to, which camp to boot camp to go into, and principles and methods to learn. And I used to get into this, like, I gotta have a routine, and I gotta, like, wake up, and I gotta journal, and I gotta manifest, and I gotta vision, and I gotta feel, and I gotta breathe, and I gotta write, and I gotta run, and then I gotta work, and then and then I burnt myself out on that. And then it was just like, man, like, the universe just does what the universe does, man. And you just, like, just sit back and just let it flow, and just, like, whatever happens. And I'm just like, hey, I'm just being, and I'm just like, so there's all these little pitfalls and bubbles and pods and locations that we find ourselves in. And we're not going to stop the wheel from turning. We're not going to have a moment of mass, rising up. Those belief systems just aren't there in most of the landscape. And so, rather than getting, like, depressed about that, it's just, let's create that. Like, let's create the energy that brings us into the world that we want to cast into this reality. Let us, carve up our pieces of magic and send them to the vortexes of infinity, so that we can have, a big hacky sack circle in the center of the multiverse, and just kick it around. I once fell under the delusion that, like, my purpose here is to, to awaken the world. In some way or another. And really this podcast has been about that, has been about these, like, deeper motivations, these underlining, uncovered, places of desire that I'm reaching and searching for, and thinking that I'm doing it in a healthy way, in a constructive way. And again, it's not to say that I haven't been seeping through the cracks there and being constructive and productive, but they're still through it all, I'm playing whack-a-mole with my ego. It comes up, and I'm hitting it down. It's just this fight, this, like, slay the dragon, get it, conquer it, in, conquer your inner bitch, warrior, man. And it's like, that's. I just want to be able to fully experience the reality that really nourishes and satisfies me in a deep way. And throughout this pandemic time, I've done some of that, and I've also done a lot of addictive and habitual indulgences. Mainly ice cream, mainly nicotine, a lot of cannabis. And if we're not properly equipped to transmit the necessary and appropriate level of energy through our receivers, but when encountering these other charges, then we're gonna get all short circuited, and I feel like I've gotten to that point quite a bit. So how can I, and how can we all, really get to a point where it's baked in? Like, it's baked in that, like, this is necessary maintenance for my highest, best self to be fully open, to leave the door to my loving core open, and asking for help and seeking support, and not just knowing about the process in the mind and sort of like, spending one day to figure out the puzzle and being satisfied with that, but to actually continuously practice a form of expression and will that is fully is using the not the totality, but like as much of all of the lessons and experiences and joys and pleasures and challenges and putting that into something that is going to have an elegant balance to it that is beautiful, but is not that seductive siren song, but is something that is really like the thing. The thing that we don't give a name to. But you can call it, God, oneness, awakening, whatever, universal consciousness, the non-duality, and that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think I'm going to end it there. So, thanks for listening. You guys know what to do when you like stuff. If there's anything that you found interesting in the show, please reach out to me and drop me a couple lines. And if you want to have a bigger conversation about it, I'm open to that too. Let's do it. And if you have more to share, just let me know. Hey, there's going to be more here, and I'm down to explore. And I'm working on maybe a way that I could create more of a community circle for, the kinds of things that I feel that I can know because I'm going through them and working on them, and I've been, I hope it didn't come off as me being like hard on myself on this podcast, because I am doing a lot of the work, and then I'm still noticing that there's a lot of me that, and I hate calling it the work. It's like so fucking boring. Like, oh, and then like, and even worse is like the people that are like, well, I call it play. It's like, all right, just shut the fuck up. There I am, judgmental prick again, back. So yeah, striking a balance, really. Striking a balance, maybe something about masculinity, the shadow, ego, power, these kinds of elements that I would really like to dig into even more and experience even more, and not just read them in books and espouse quotes and sit on a little armchair smoking a pipe and how clever am I, like, here's another gold star, here's another review, here's another $1, here's another sticker. And it's like, come on, like what is that? I had this fantasy that when I got the iPad that I was going to be like so wowed by it, and like it's oh my God, it's cool, it's really cool, it's fucking cool, but it's not like changing my life. And I got like sucked into that trap. It's like one way, like the extremes is what I'm talking about here. Is the extremes. It's the, well, I'm either going to be like a Luddite, like live in the woods, or I'm going to be like technology, like, yeah, put a neural link in my head and let's VR this shit. But yeah, when I'm able to open the doors that I opened and share what's in the rooms that I shared on this show, I feel more connected to you guys, even though I don't know that I am. I just feel that I'm more connected to myself, or maybe that you're allowing me to that space, and that's healing in and of itself. So, this is a very challenging time for us right now. And there's a lot of things that are happening in the world, and we're never, we don't need to know, or at least I got to speak for I don't need to know every single detail, because it's going where it's going. And I'm not the guy, there's plenty of people out there. There's people that I listen to and watch that are amazing at breaking it all down and talking about, the history of this organization and this society or this thing or the banking or the debt or the rise and fall of the empires and all of these amazing things, and then really amazing authors and great insight into the way that the mind works and all this stuff. And for me, I just find myself getting caught up in the ornamentation of it all, where I'm this collector, collecting and putting it on the shelf of my mind to throw out little nuggets here and there, and to feel, that was a good little morsel that makes me feel like validated and, but I get such a deeper pleasure from being there for others in a really genuine way that really has no agenda, that is really just able to hit to sit and to listen. And it's been a very difficult, big time challenge for me to do that, to come on this transformation, this trans experience that I'm having, this transition, this alchemy, this magic of coming from this aggressive, rage-filled, violent, hostile, abusive, bratty, spoiled, violent thief, cheat, liar, deceiver, trickster, tricker, into or back into remembering the wonder and the magic and the curiosity of my loving, caring heart as a child before all that. Because I do believe that we're all born with that capacity, and we get shaped by our environments and how we respond and react and interpret our environments, along with our genetics and our also soul contracts and Akashic records and, crystal journey, field, aura, energy, Reiki, Krav Maga, am I leaving anything out? Feldenkrais, whatever, like whatever our karma or dharma, whatever our soul contract plans, whatever our human design, whatever our astrology, virology, rectal examinology says about us, or whatever the next clever game that we can come up with that will give us key insights that we're setting up for ourselves to wow ourselves into the mystery of awakening by playing these elaborate games and creating these little labyrinths to go through and thinking, oh man, poor me, how challenging. Oh, surprise, it was me all the time and I unlocked it. And why did I make it so hard for myself? Oh, okay. Well, the imprinting of that experience, if I can get through it, can actually deliver the thing that is the thing. That is the butter on the toasty bread. I don't know. Does that make sense? All right. I think I'm worn out. I think I'm spent. Maybe you guys are sick of hearing from me. Yeah, more to come. I haven't done a podcast like this in a very long time. So let me know what you think, and looking forward to hearing from you. Looking forward to connecting. And yeah, no ads, no promotions. I just kind of had fun with that stuff in the middle of the show. But obviously, things that I love and support, the links will be in there. So if you care to see what they are, go check it out. Man, I love and support all of you. I do. I really do. I wish we could all be in a room together. It would be great. Maybe one day we will. Thank you so much. Peace.